everybody, and welcome back to The Coach's Call. I'm your host, Guido Perino. Listen, thanks for joining me. And if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. Look, today I want to talk about a couple of topics. The truth about William Nylander, and then I want to talk a little bit about what's wrong with the Edmonton Oilers. So William Nylander has been in the news a lot lately, especially here in Toronto, especially on the Toronto Sports Network, or sorry, TSN, the Sports Network. Look, I want to address that first. The Leafs are over in Sweden, and Nylander has a couple of good games over there, and the TSN, like, they just couldn't get enough of William Nylander, and so much talk and conversation about, the Leafs over there and what they're doing and how they're winning, and William Nylander's play, because he had a couple of really good games. Meanwhile, back in Canada, back at home, you've got, and this is a network that boasts CFL. The leadoff story, in some programs after the Montreal Alouettes win the Grey Cup, wasn't that. It was, let's talk about William Nylander. Boy, what a head scratcher. Just a complete head scratcher. So you've got a team that went 8 in a row, annihilates your juggernaut Toronto Argonauts, and then, defeats a dynasty team like the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And your focus, your excitement is about William Nylander on game 16 of the NHL season because he had a couple of good games and he signed some autographs for some fans in Sweden. Come on. If there's something wrong with the hockey culture here in Toronto, that's it right there. Right? That's it. Anyways, here's the thing about William Nylander and all the hype around him. When you sort through all the noise and you sort through all the extra stuff that is being thrown his way by some of the network personalities, he's having a good season. He might be having a career season. He's playing some really good hockey. But William Nylander has played good hockey throughout his career. And William Nylander sometimes does it in bunches. And then sometimes he goes away in bunches. And when he goes away in bunches, that's when those questions come up. Well, what's wrong with William Nylander? He's not this type of player. He's not that type of player. They need him to be this type of player. That's Toronto sports media, right? And so I look at William Nylander and I look at his stats over, the course of his career. And the last couple of seasons, he's been in that 80 to 90 point range. Probably going to land somewhere in that same neighborhood this year, 80, 90, maybe 100. If he has a couple more of those types of good games, maybe 100. He is in a contract year. And so, there's something to be said. There's lessons learned in the NHL about how a player plays in his contract year. But I know this about William Nylander. William Nylander isn't going to be Connor McDavid. William Nylander's, probably not going to be a Sidney Crosby or an Alex Ovechkin. He's 27 years old. And when you look at his body of work over his career, he's probably peaking right now. Started to peak in the last couple of seasons as he entered that, 80 to 90 point range. I think William Nylander is going to just settle down. He'll get the points that he would normally get. I think he's going to have bouts where he'll disappear and questions will come up. And I think he's going to have bouts where he's going to have some really good games like he did in Sweden. If it's a slow news story day in Toronto, or if it's, a news story by choice, they're going to pump these tires really high. And who knows, William Nylander is going to get the big contract. And then next season, when maybe he takes a little bit of a step back, not because he's a bad player, it's just circumstance. Sometimes how the season unfolds, right? Takes a little step back. Then the questions start getting asked. Did they overpay? Did they pay William Nylander too much? Is his contract going to be the next problem contract on the Toronto Maple Leafs? I mean, you got John Tavares, his contract is going to expire, and there's an opportunity to save money there allegedly. You got the big money going to Austin and Marner. But the whole Nylander thing, I think you just let it play out. He's a good player. Level set what the guy is worth, Toronto. Don't listen to all the network broadcasters and analysts who are pumping these tires really high, and then they're going to tear them down next season. But William Nylander is a good NHL hockey player. He's not your Connor McDavid. He's not gonna evolve into a 150 point guy. He's just going to be a consistent, player who gets a certain amount of points every season. Now, the Edmonton Oilers. What's wrong with the Edmonton Oilers? Everybody's saying, well, look how far they made it in the playoffs last year. This is a better team than what they are. Look at the talent they have. And, they got a new coach. And when you fire the coach, when your team enters the season with higher expectations than what they achieve, and then you fire the coach, that's one of the last resorts. That's a GM who's going, I don't know what other answer I have here. I don't want to change these pieces out too much, so I'm going to fire the coach. Was the coach the problem? Probably not. The coach didn't suddenly stop learning how to coach. Could the team have quit on the coach? Maybe. Sometimes that happens. But if it's not the coach, well, then it must be the goalie. And so you take your $5 million goalie and you send him down to the AHL. Look, I probably was never a big fan of Jack Campbell, even when he played for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I saw a lot of Jack Campbell, sometimes not by choice, but I loved it. He's a great guy. Jack Campbell's a great guy, great sports guy. He just wasn't my kind of goalie that I like. Was he the goalie that the Edmonton Oilers needed? No, he wasn't. Was he put in a situation, a high pressure situation, that maybe was too much for him? Maybe, possibly. I think he was. Is the goalie the only problem that the Edmonton Oilers have? No. And I don't think it matters right now what goalie you put in that net, that you're going to that the Edmonton Oilers will fare much better than what they're doing. So what's wrong with the Edmonton Oilers? There's a couple of things here going on. They're not playing a team game. And when you're not playing a team game, there's a lot of individual effort out there. Look, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, they've got, they just have some great talents, individual talents, fantastic talents. And we saw when those talents come together as a team, like, Hyman even in there, and people talk a lot about their back end. It's not the best back end, but it's not the worst. And I think if they play as a team, you get some different results. And I know a lot of people don't like Don Cherry, right? And Don Cherry would say this. Right now, they're gripping their sticks really tight. There's a lot of individual effort. Maybe there's a bit of cluster efforts where two or three, two players play together in one kind of way, trying to win games, trying to carry the team. But you need the entire team here to buy into a system and to play a team game. And if you could just start with those building blocks in Edmonton, I think the narrative starts to change again. But they're gripping their sticks really tight. They're nervous. They want to win. McDavid wants to win. Draisaitl wants to win. You got these, and I'm not saying the other players don't want to win, but they're just gripping their stick so tight that, the microscope is on them. Everybody's looking at the Oilers. They should be achieving more than what they are achieving. And it's kind of like an old high school teacher of me, and you might have heard this story before, taught us a lesson to the boys. He said, "Look, don't put so much cologne on that people can smell you coming from a mile away. put just enough on so that when they get close to you, that's when they notice you. And when right now, the Edmonton Oilers have a ton of cologne on. Each of these players has a ton of cologne on. And the desperation, the other players, the other teams, they sense it from a mile away and their confidence is shot. Got to need some confidence building blocks back in, put on less cologne, find a way to have fun, play a team game. Yeah, you probably need another goalie. You need another goalie in the right environment. You need to improve your defense in the right environment. Can you bring in some players that maybe will address that? Maybe, but you got to bring them in with the mindset. You got to change the culture. You got to change the team game a little bit. Folks, thanks for listening to me. That is the coach's call on William Nylander and the Edmonton Oilers. Thank you again for being here. If you haven't, please consider subscribing. Take care and have a great day.